Hi, welcome to How to Repair. This video is on LG washing machines and how to dismantle them and identify each individual component and how to take the drum out of the machine. This is on 2020 model onwards. I have an additional video to assist you on earlier models. We'll be looking at all the actual parts that you can see in the diagram here, and I'll be actually identifying each part as we go through, common errors that can occur with the parts, and also how to remove and replace the parts. Okay, we're going to start from the top of the machine down. It is very important to organise yourself correctly whenever trying to rebuild a machine. There are different screws and different threads and different material all through the machine, so it's well worth keeping all the screws organised. Lid just comes straight back. Okay, the first thing we're going to remove is the control board. So soap drawer out, press the button down, put that to one side, 2 screws inside. These screws are a different material. These are normally aluminium or stainless steel. This is because of corrosion in this area. 2 screws at the back of the panel. Then you've got a couple of clips that you just need to lift up, but you will need to remove the cabling. It is also a good idea to take a photograph of where all the wiring comes from. Although they have location lugs so they can only go in one way, it still helps you a lot having a photograph. That is the display panel and also the display circuit board. Next we're going to remove the fill assembly. This is the water valve, the top hose, the hose from the soap box to the actual drum where the water passes to fill, and we'll take this out of the way. LG have really stepped up their game by starting to identify parts with part numbers written on the components, which does make it a great help. Soap box slides back, comes over to one side, and then you're able to unclip the hose, and the whole of this assembly can be taken away. Okay, a couple of things about the fill assembly. The water valve, IE and FE error codes are related to the machine either overfilling with water, meaning the valve can be jammed open because of dirt in it, or the IE error code can be related to the machine not filling in the allocated period of time. I've done detailed videos on these. Also, the soap box assembly. Over a period of time, if you're in a high calcium area, these jets in the top of this soap box can jam up, so it's worth stripping this down. You can take them apart to actually clean all the top in here. You'll also get a lot of mold build up in the machine over a period of time in this area, so it's worth taking this off to clean it. Okay, the door assembly and hinge. First, I want to quickly explain most times that the door is sold as a complete unit. The hinge is here, and there's a plate behind that these screws attach to, which will come off when you undo these screws. There's 3 screws down the side, 1 on this, and then you need to use a small screwdriver to prise the door apart if you wanted to gain access to any of the components or clean inside here. Okay, next we're going to take the front panel off completely, and this is straightforward. The flap comes down, this can be removed. There is 1 hidden screw inside here. Then there are 2 screws at the bottom. Next we have the door seal. You can use a small screwdriver to lift it off, but I've got a special tool for doing it. These, by the way, are called door band pliers, or retaining clip pliers. You will be able to get these, and I'll put a link in the description below. Peel the seal back. Then we need to remove the 2 screws holding the door lock in place. While I'm at the door lock, all the DE error codes are related to the door lock fault or the door not shutting properly. I've done a detailed video on these, and these locks do go wrong on occasions. To take them off, you just need to press the clip button and pull it away. Also inspect the electrical connection for any burning, because sometimes that can cause an intermittent connection and therefore cause a problem with a DE error code. Lastly, to remove the panel, 3 screws at the top. Make sure you support the panel as you undo these. Once they're undone, the panel will lean forward and then lift up. There are clips at the bottom which you can see here. Next, we're going to remove the program and the front retaining bar. 2 screws to hold the program. The program will slide over and come away. We'll take that off in a second. Now we'll remove the bar. This comes away. Now we have the program. You will see that there are some clips holding the cables in place. Okay, cutting the cable ties off, we are now able to remove the imbalance load sensor, which I'll come to in a second. It's a good idea to always take photographs of where all the components come from. Some of these clips can be sticky, but they are color-coded. Okay, as I'm a great believer in not wasting appliances, there are too many appliances that go to the big graveyard in the sky. Sometimes you're able to find a circuit board on shopping channels like eBay, Gumtree and other shopping channels around the world. The part number is written on the actual program, but do make sure it fits your specific model of machine, because sometimes these have been programmed in different ways. Okay, let me explain a few things about the circuit board while I'm here. Intermittent faults can be down to the circuit board, or power failures can be down to the board as well, and other faults as well. There are a couple of fuses on these circuit boards which you can see here and here, but the problem being is they've encapsulated the whole circuit board in a silicon, and this is because it is designed to be moisture resistant. In some ways it's very good, in other ways it's very bad, because it's very difficult to repair the circuit boards, and for the amount of work that's involved, sometimes it's just not worth it. You can see here that we have the genuine part number written on the board, and these boards are programmed for specific models of machines, so do make sure when purchasing a new or second-hand circuit board that it is compatible with your machine. That's the circuit board taken care of. Next, we've got the imbalance load sensor which sits on the top of the drum. These can go wrong on occasions. There's just a couple of clips that hold it in place. That can come away. Then there's a clip underneath here and the whole thing slides out. And that is on the screen now, so you can see the part as well. Next, we'll deal with the heating system. I'd like you to be aware that it is sometimes a problem with the wires that go through to the heating system can get metal fatigue on old machines. TE and HE are both related to heating error or the NTC sensor fault. Just need to cut these cable ties off, disconnect all the connections. To remove the heating element and the NTC sensor, it is possible to prise the NTC sensor out, but you want to release the pressure off this bolt first. Now, what I always do is back this up all the way to the end of the thread, then give it a push inwards. The element will come away, but sometimes they are hard to get out, and you will have to take your time and prise the element out. Sometimes the seal can be sticky and difficult to get out, so it's worth having a hook to actually pull the element out. And here we have the element and the NTC sensor. Again, these are sometimes sold as a complete unit. Okay, I just thought this might be useful for some people. This is a brand new element and NTC sensor because this is a new machine I'm working on. So setting your multimeter up onto 200 range on ohms and going across the element, because the element is a 2 kilowatt element, we have an ohms resistance of 26.4. And if you want to check the NTC sensor, this is a different thing altogether. We've set it to 200K range and we've got an air temperature temperature of approximately 15-16 degrees. So of course this reading will change with your actual temperature, and we've got 72.2. It's just useful for people to have those measurements so they can compare it to their existing NTC sensor or element. The element then just comes away. Because we're going to be taking the drum out of this machine, I'm going to remove the pressure bowl, the sump hose from the pump, but I'm going to leave the pump in place until we've got the drum out. There's a screw at the bottom. This will come away, and then you can remove the hose which attaches to the actual pressure bowl. That will pull off. One screw holding the sump hose to the actual drum. Release that and drop it down. And then we have one clip on this side which needs to be pressed down and pulled away. And then the whole hose assembly, including the pressure bowl, will come off. Overfilling problems. This can cause problems when it fills up with dirt, giving the pressure switch a bad indication on what level of water is in the machine. Next, we're going to remove the counterweights, the door seal and the soapbox hose, and I'm going to discuss a few problems that can occur with LG machines over a period of time. Firstly, the soapbox hose just pulls off and it comes away. Because this is close to the cabinet, it is on occasions worn through on the side and can cause leaking. Also, because of the design of the actual hose, if you use a lot of powder, this sometimes can actually block up and cause the machine to leak from the soapbox area because it's unable to transfer the water from the soapbox to the actual machine in the relevant period of time because it is clogged. That's one problem. The next problem that I have seen on LG machines, and many other engineers have told me about, is these counterweights are encapsulated. Now, some of these counterweights are concrete inside, encapsulated in plastic, and they have cracked. And what happens with this is you can end up with a vibrating or funny noises coming from the machine, and on occasions they break apart, which can cause catastrophic effects with regards damage to the machine. But these are straightforward to come off, and we have to remove these to be able to put the door seal back on. I am actually able to remove the door seal at this point if I wanted to, and I'll just show you. Taking the hose off and then putting my fingers in and lifting up, I could remove the door seal, but putting it back on would be an absolute nightmare without taking these counterweights off. There's a special type spring system. I've done a detailed video on actually reassembling the door seal assembly and fitting a new door seal, and these are straightforward to fit if you follow the video and the procedure. Removing the counterweights are 4 bolts on each counterweight, and when doing them up, reassembling, do not use an impactor. Use a hand spanner to make sure you don't over tighten or crack the concrete, or strip the plastic threads. These just lift off. Okay, with these type LG machines, there are 3 suspension legs, and most of the suspension legs do have the part numbers stamped on them. And I'm just going to show you, while I've got a good film angle, you just got a pin on the front there, which you need to press down, and then slide the pin backwards, and this will remove the actual pin that holds the suspension leg in place. You can do that again with the top one, just pressing the pin down, going from the back and then sliding the pin out. The pin comes out and the suspension leg comes off. Now, let me explain. The part number is actually written on these suspension legs. You either have to use your model number off the machine to identify the correct suspension leg for your machine, or you will be able to identify it via the part number. UE error code is imbalanced load, and this can actually be caused because the shock absorbers have failed and are not actually giving enough cushion to the drum and causing the machine to shake too much with the imbalance sensor which we took off earlier, and this can also cause an error of UE error code. I hope that helps. Complete taking the bottom pins out of all the suspension legs, and then we'll be ready to actually remove the drum once we've actually taken the motor off the back of the machine. Okay, next we're removing the motor before lifting the drum out. Back panel is straightforward. If you wanted to take the drum out of the machine with the motor attached, there is a plug down here that you can disconnect and then separate the wiring and then lift it out. But I'm actually going to take the motor off and disconnect the wiring from the motor. To remove the motor, we have to undo this bolt. This is held on with a spline. This spline can become faulty because it's plastic. Also, the bolt is held in place with Loctite, which is a glue that holds threads together so it can't come off. Just got to give it a tap to loosen the bolt. Then I'm able to undo it. You will see on the threads that green material, and that's the Loctite. Here is the actual spline that I'm on about. A common fault that can occur with these is if the spline is stripped. In other words, these grooves are worn away, then the drum may not be turning when the motor is turning. It is a common fault, especially on the heavier load machines. Just prise the motor away. It's magnetic. Inside here you have all the magnets from the actual outside of the housing, and this then is driven by the actual stator, and as you can see the stator has 3 bolts and you've got the spline here. Also the bearing numbers on this machine are written onto it, and these look like good quality bearings, and this is a 6, I can't quite read the number, I think it's a 6305 2R2, and that's the outer bearing. So next we need to undo these 3 bolts. First we need to undo these 2 screws that hold the cabling in place. And also cut away the cable ties that hold the harness in place. That's all loose now. We can now undo the stator. The motor will come away, and then you're able to flip it over, press down these pins, which are sometimes tricky to get off. Make sure you don't damage the motor. And the plug will come away, and that is the motor. Okay, just quickly while we're at this point, LE, SE and CE are all somehow related to the motor fault system. Now, quickly going around the outer part of the stator, you can see these magnets. Make sure that all those magnets are in good condition. The next thing that we want to deal with is the motor itself. You are able to test the motor. It's a 3-phase motor. All the fields should be equal. And also, as I said, on this motor, there is no hall sensor fitted to the motor itself. They've modernized it and fitted it into the circuit board. The coupling at the back here, this has got the part number written on it, and this coupling, as you can see, has got a shaft grooves going through. Now, they have made some alterations to these. They look a little bit better and stronger. I think they've used a different type of material now, but this was a common problem that could occur with the larger weight machines where the drum was not turning, but you could hear the motor turning, and that was a common problem as well. I just thought I'd address that while we're at this point. Okay, before lifting the drum out, we've got a couple of other components that we need to deal with. Pressure switch and the pipe. This is normally related to a PE error code or an FE error code. If the machine is overfilling, this pipe may have a perforation in it. If the machine has got a PE error code, then it can be the pressure switch that actually is faulty. This is now a new type pressure switch, and these, I've done a detailed video on this, and these pressure switches relay the information to the circuit board using Hertz frequency, and this basically tells the machine what level of water is in the machine. Lastly, we've got the suppressor or filter, as it's called. The power lead comes into this, goes in here, filters the electricity to make sure it's clean with regards static to electrical items in the household and so on, so it doesn't interfere with everything. Basically, this is straightforward to come off. There's a clip at the back. You just press that clip up, and then this will slide out. And there we have the suppressor or filter, electrical filter. PF could be related to this. That is an error where it's a power failure. Normally it just means that the power's gone off on the property when you have a PF error, but if the suppressor was open circuit and not passing electricity through to the circuit board connections, then this also could relate to a PF error code. Right, there are a couple of lifting points on the drum. One on that side, one on that side, and I've got a hoist for doing this, so I'm able to drop this down. What I would say is if you are lifting this with your hands, you want to make sure that you keep your fingers away from the edge of the cabinet, but it would take two people normally to lift it and take the springs off. You'll notice also at this point we've got everything organized, screws in certain boxes, different components all in different locations ready for reassembling. You will find it so easy if you keep everything organized for reassembly of the machine. And these drums are splittable, so you don't need to replace the whole drum. I've got a separate video showing you how to take the drum apart and replace the bearings, and that will be coming up shortly, but I won't be doing it with this drum because it's a brand new machine. So taking the weight off the drum, we're then able to take the springs off, and note which way the springs go on to each side. So do keep them organized. Do the same on the other side. And now we can just lift the drum up slightly, taking the weight off everything, making sure not to damage any of the wiring. And we've got the drum out of the machine. Now let me just put this to one side. The drum is straightforward for replacing the bearings on this. You've got bolts all the way round. You've got a gasket which joins the two halves of the drum together. Silicon can also be used, but make sure you're using a high quality silicon, not a cheap one, because you wouldn't want it to put it together and find out you've got a leak. Again, LG have been excellent. They've put the part number on the drum, and then you've got the back bearing, the inner bearing, and the seal as well. All these parts are in the description below. All you have to do is enter your model number in to identify the correct parts on your machine, or just put the part number in to find the part that you require. Okay, on some models of LG machines, the suspension legs could be different part numbers, because we have two suspension legs on one side of the machine and one suspension leg on the other. And it may be a different type of pressure system that's related to that pressure, to that shock absorber. So do check the part numbers. But on this machine, all the suspension legs were exactly the same. We have the last component in the bottom of the machine, which is the motor, the pump motor, and the pump housing and filter. That's straightforward, and I've done a detailed video on that. On the new machines now, they're using a DC motor on the pump, and this means it runs much quieter and much more efficiently as well. In the bottom of the machine, if you have one of the higher end models, you would have an anti-flood device as well, and this is there to detect if you have any leaks in the bottom of the machine. But I've done another video on that with regards finding leaks on LG washing machines. And there we go. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks very much indeed for watching. Please remember to use the links below to additional videos, and if you require any parts. Your support to our website is much appreciated, and remember, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, mark us down to your favourites if you ever need us in the future, and if we really helped you, you can always click on the Bipolar Beer page. Thanks very much indeed for watching.